First of all, apologies for the Band-Aid. I had a spot on my cheek and I scratched at it in the middle of the night while I was sleeping, and it left a ugly mark, and while it's healing, I am just having to cover it up. So, sorry about that. That aside, the point of this video is actually something that I've been talking about for years now, which is that I don't relate to a lot of people when it comes to hating fictional characters. Since about 2018, 2019 or so, I've always held the philosophy, or rather, I've always felt that I just don't have it in me to hate fictional characters, no matter how evil they are, no matter how horrific the things they do are, and I know that isn't necessarily super common. I know some people agree with me, some people feel similarly, but doesn't seem super common, so I felt like I'd share that because it's something that I feel very strongly about. Not that it's wrong for people to feel that way or anything, of course, but just I don't think it's anything that'll ever change for me. As much as I can understand people seeing evil fictional characters who do horrible things, who cause much suffering, I just can't relate to hating them. And I think that what that stems from is just this internal, weird, holistic feeling that I get that most characters who do these horrible things, who contribute to the narrative while being a villain, a very unlikable villain who does horrible things, are benefiting the story. So, for instance, Berserk spoilers, I guess, which I don't think are very big spoilers because I'll be non-specific. The character in Berserk named Griffith does horrific, awful, evil things in the story, and people hate him. However, when I experienced those things that Griffith did, I felt grief, I felt sadness, I felt anger, I felt pain. But I didn't direct that towards a disdain or hate towards the villain who did these things. I just felt it, internalized it, and actually appreciated the villain who did those things more because I knew that these horrible acts were contributing to an overall amazing story. This grief, these emotions I felt, were a signifier that this story was going to stick with me, that this story was great. And that's something that I kind of subconsciously feel, that when characters do these horrible things, as long as they're well written, while it may make me feel powerful negative feelings in the moment, I don't hate the characters doing them because it's just, I'm just more so overpowered by a feeling of appreciation and a gratitude that they are contributing to, I guess, improving or enriching the story. So yeah, that's something I feel quite strongly about. Sorry, just changing the... Okay, that's good. That's something I feel. Now, of course, there are moments where I feel hate, but they're quite rare, even for characters that are awful. But I think there are a couple worth mentioning. There's a character in Umineko, whose name is Rosa Ushiromiya. And I won't get into specifics, but there were moments where I was beside myself with rage, because she does some heinous things, horrible things, and I hated her in those moments. Another example is Charles McGill, Chuck from Better Call Saul. I think he's I think he's done horrible things in Better Call Saul. I think he's done very unlikable things. I think he's a very toxic person. Amazing, incredible character. Maybe my favorite in Better Call Saul. But can be a very bad person at times and do very unlikable things. And there were moments in Better Call Saul where I felt hatred towards him. However, in both these cases, these are a couple of cases, it doesn't happen often. But it does happen. In both these cases, once I calm down after the initial thing, I'm just overcome with appreciation for the character rather than disdain towards them, because I was able to recognize that they were contributing to incredible narrative quality through their villainy or through their horrible acts or whatever. So there just seems to be an ingrained thing within me that a character who is doing horrible things that are getting an extreme emotional reaction out of me, by and large, most of the time, they are usually well written, and sometimes they are incredibly written. And in that case, if something is contributing to me feeling closer to a story or appreciating a story more, I don't feel negativity towards that. I feel gratitude towards that. On the other hand, it's funny because I'm lucky in that I feel love for characters. I feel positively for characters that do really good things. When characters do really good things, it's not that I feel a disconnect with feeling positively about them. Not at all. When characters do good things, or when characters are warm and awesome and sweet and have great relationships, my heart just beats so strongly for them, and I do not feel the disconnect in hatred that I feel for horrible characters that are horrible people morally than I do with characters that are great people. I guess it's just an internal thing within me that allows for me to appreciate stories as much as possible, and sometimes hating a character, I've seen people like stories less because maybe they acknowledge that the character's well written, or maybe they can't see that they're well written because they just strike a sore spot for them and they just cannot come to appreciate the character because they make them angry and emotional, and they hate negatively, and they hate them. And I think that's understandable. I'm not blaming anyone who feels that way. I think that's a very human thing to feel. I'm just offering my 2 cents and saying why, me personally, I don't hate characters. One of my favorite characters of all time, Poof from Hunter x Hunter, lots of people hate him. He's very traditionally, he does things that are very unlikable. He does things, he's an obstacle to protagonists in a way that is unlikable. He's very eccentric and strange, and he is very ugly in, once in a while on the outside, but mostly on the inside. He's an ugly person in a lot of ways through the way he interacts with the story and interacts with other characters and what he tries to do. Now, I don't want to digress too much, but there are very authentic psychological reasons for that make him an incredible character, one of the best I've ever seen, but that's besides the point. I understand why people hate him, but because I look at him and I see nothing but incredible mastery in the way that he's written and presented, specifically in the visuals in the manga and the voice acting in the anime, because of all that, I feel nothing approaching hate for him. I just feel love for him and gratitude for him being able to contribute to Hunter x Hunter in such a masterful way. Who's another character? Another one, Expedition 33, I'm just going to mention, this isn't a spoiler for it, but there is a character in Expedition 33 who does lots of horrific, actually multiple characters who do lots of horrible things. They are manipulative, they lie, they sometimes let people experience pain for their own ends, and they do a lot of things that are horrific and awful. However, I think the way that contributes to the theming, the way that it adds to the complexity and intrigue of the character, how it makes them this puzzle I want to solve, the way it bounces off other character dynamics and makes them more rich and intriguing and engaging and conflicting, it's by and large such a huge positive to the story that I am overcome with appreciation about that. And while I can say in a detached way, yes, that is hateable, I understand why you hate them, why they're hated, I don't hate them myself. And some might ask, what about characters that are not well written, but are very unlikable and evil, maybe? What about that? What about in situations like that, where you just don't vibe with the character, you don't think they're good, you think they're maybe shallow or not complex or not intriguing, or maybe even take away from the stories they're in? What about that? In that case, a story that is mediocre or bad simply doesn't move me. If a horrible character, if a horrible character does something horrible, the emotional impact isn't there because a horrible character is usually part of a story or a stretch of story that isn't engaging me or isn't compelling me or doesn't have me invested. So I will likely just go like, yeah, that's a horrible person or that's a horrible villain. They're evil, but I won't hate them because I think to experience hate, you have to be deeply invested emotionally in the story. But if a character's really bad, I'm not going to be emotionally invested in the story. It sort of comes from that whole idea that sometimes people say the worst thing you can feel is indifference towards stories. That's sometimes used in different contexts, but if I'm not engaged with the story and a character does something horrible, I'm not going to feel strong emotions because I'm not engaged with the story, you know? And if I am engaged enough to feel strong emotions, I'm going to feel appreciation for what they add to the story. Now there are sometimes cases maybe where a character is too over the top, where they do things that are too evil, where they do things that are maybe, I think, going a step too far, and that may be a flaw for that story. That happens once in a blue moon. It doesn't happen super often, but it happens. In that case, I don't hate the character. I kind of just go, it's a shame that the writer went that far with it because I think it takes away from it, and it's kind of just a disappointment that there's a flaw in the story. I don't know, when it comes to evil characters, there's too much love in my heart for stories to feel that sort of hatred. And it's interesting because that love in my heart makes me kind of act in a detached way when it comes to that, which some people just cannot see and cannot relate to, and I get that. I get that I'm more separated, segregated in that way from the raw emotions of the story sometimes when a character does something awful and I'm just kind of in awe I'm of course disgusted, I'm sad, I'm whatever, but when people go, God, I hate them, and I just go, God, they're incredible. They're an incredible character. It's different, and I know it's not like I'm the only one on the earth who feels this way. I've talked to people who feel this way as well, but I thought it was an interesting topic to bring up, and I'm curious what you guys think. Do some of you guys agree with me? Do some of you guys feel the same way, where as long as the character's written well, presented well, if they do horrible things, you can't really hate them? Or do you just feel hatred for them? I think both are incredibly valid for different reasons. It's just about how we interact with media. If someone does something evil, who am I? Like, of course people feel hatred for them. I just look at it a bit differently or feel differently because of how I interact with stories. Anyway, let me know. Let me know what you feel about this topic. I think it's an interesting one, and I've talked about it across the years, and lots of different people have lots of different thoughts on it and ways of interacting with stories. So, thank you so much for watching and listening, and I'll see you in the next one.